honored to introduce to you the creator of the Hunger Games themselves, Dean Casca Highbottom.
I have summoned you all here for the 10th annual reaping ceremony.
There are stories that begin with heroes, and then there are stories that begin with something far more dangerous: ambition. The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is not just a return to Panem, it is a descent into the origins of power, where charm and cruelty are born from the same fragile place. Long before rebellion became a symbol of hope, before Katniss Everdeen ever raised her bow, the world of Panem was still recovering from war, its wounds fresh, its people divided, and its capital desperate to maintain control through spectacle and fear. In this earlier version of Panem, the Hunger Games are not yet the grand, twisted entertainment they will become. They are raw, uncomfortable, and struggling to capture the attention of a capital that is still figuring out how to turn punishment into performance. The arena is less polished, the rules less refined, and the audience less invested. But beneath this unsteady foundation lies something far more important: the evolution of manipulation, the transformation of violence into narrative, and the realization that power is not just about control, but about perception. At the center of this transformation stands a young Coriolanus Snow, a name that will one day command fear across all districts, but here it carries the weight of desperation. He is not yet the tyrant people will come to know. He is a boy clinging to the last remnants of a once great family legacy. The Snow name, once associated with wealth and prestige, has fallen into quiet poverty, hidden behind carefully maintained appearances. Every smile, every word, every calculated move he makes is driven by a singular goal: to restore his family status and secure his future in a world that offers no mercy to the weak. Coriolanus is intelligent, observant, and deeply aware of how the world functions. He understands that survival in the capital is not just about strength or intelligence, but about image. It is about knowing when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to present yourself in a way that earns admiration rather than suspicion. This awareness becomes his greatest weapon, but it is also the beginning of something darker. Because when survival depends on performance, morality becomes flexible, and the line between right and wrong begins to blur. When he is assigned as a mentor in the Hunger Games, it is not an honor, it is a risk. His future hinges on his ability to succeed, to stand out, to prove that he is worthy of opportunity, and the tribute he is given, Lucy Gray Baird from District 12, initially seems like a disadvantage. District 12 is poor, overlooked, and rarely produces victors. But Lucy Gray is anything but ordinary. From the moment she enters the stage, she commands attention in a way that defies expectations. She does not rely on fear or aggression. She uses charm, music, and personality to captivate the audience. This is where the story begins to shift, where the Hunger Games themselves start to change. Coriolanus recognizes something that others overlook. People do not just want to watch survival, they want to feel something. They want a story. Lucy Gray becomes that story, and through her, Coriolanus begins to reshape the way the games are perceived. He understands that if he can make the audience care about her, he can influence the outcome. This realization marks a turning point, not just for him, but for the entire concept of the Hunger Games. As Coriolanus and Lucy Gray's paths intertwine, their relationship becomes complex and layered. There is a connection between them, but it is built on unstable ground. Trust, in a world like this, is never simple. Lucy Gray sees through people in a way that is both perceptive and cautious, while Coriolanus sees people as pieces in a larger game. He admires her, is drawn to her, and perhaps even cares for her in his own way, but his ambitions are always present, quietly shaping his decisions, guiding his actions, and reminding him that survival often requires sacrifice. What makes this story compelling is not just the events that unfold, but the internal conflict within Coriolanus himself. He is constantly navigating between two instincts, the desire to do what is right and the need to do what is necessary. At times, these instincts align, but more often they clash, forcing him to make choices that reveal who he truly is. And the truth is not simple. He is not purely good or purely evil. He is something in between, something evolving. The world around him reinforces this evolution. The capital, with its obsession with control and image, rewards those who can manipulate perception. The games, with their brutality, normalized violence in the name of order. And the people in power, who present themselves as guardians of stability, often operate with motives that are far from noble. In such an environment, morality becomes a luxury, and ambition becomes a necessity. Lucy Gray, on the other hand, represents something different. She embodies resilience, individualism, and a refusal to be reduced to a role. She understands the system she is trapped in, but she does not let it define her completely. Her music, her words, and her presence challenge the idea that the tributes are merely participants in a game. She brings humanity into a space designed to strip it away, and in doing so, she becomes both a symbol of hope and a reminder of what is at stake. As the games progress, the tension builds, not just in the arena, but in the choices being made behind the scenes. Coriolanus becomes more deeply involved, more invested, and more willing to push boundaries to ensure Lucy Gray's survival. Each decision he makes brings him closer to success, but also further from the person he once was. It is a gradual transformation, one that does not happen in a single moment, but through a series of small, calculated steps. This is what makes the story so compelling. It is not about a sudden fall into darkness, but about the slow, almost inevitable shift that occurs when ambition is given priority over principle. Coriolanus does not wake up one day as a villain. He becomes one through choices that, at the time, seem justified. And that is what makes his journey so unsettling. It forces us to consider how easily lines can be crossed when the stakes are high enough. The dynamic between Coriolanus and Lucy Gray continues to evolve, shaped by circumstances, emotions, and the realities of the world they inhabit. There are moments of connection, moments that feel genuine and unguarded. But there are also moments of doubt, where intentions are questioned and trust is tested. Their relationship becomes a reflection of the larger themes of the story, the tension between authenticity and performance, between emotion and strategy. As the narrative unfolds, the broader implications of the Hunger Games become clearer. They are not just a punishment for rebellion, they are a tool for control, a way to remind the districts of their place and to entertain the capital in the process. But more importantly, they are evolving. What begins as a crude display of violence is slowly being transformed into something more calculated, more engaging, and more effective. And Coriolanus, whether he fully realizes it or not, is playing a key role in that transformation. The story ultimately becomes a character study, an exploration of how environment, ambition, and choice shape identity. It challenges the idea of destiny, suggesting that who we become is not predetermined, but influenced by the paths we choose to follow. Coriolanus stands at a crossroads throughout the narrative, faced with opportunities to define himself, and each time he makes a choice that brings him closer to the figure he is destined to become. By the time the story reaches its conclusion, the transformation is undeniable. The boy who once sought to restore his family's honor has begun to understand the true nature of power. It is not just about survival, it is about control. It is about shaping the world in a way that ensures your position within it. And perhaps most importantly, it is about eliminating threats, even when those threats come in the form of people you once cared about. Lucy Gray's role in this journey is equally significant. She is not just a participant in the games, but a catalyst for change. Through her, the audience sees the humanity that the system tries to erase. She challenges Coriolanus in ways that force him to confront himself, to question his motives, and to reveal his true nature. And in the end, her presence leaves a lasting impact, not just on him, but on the trajectory of the world he will help shape. What makes this story resonate is its exploration of themes that extend beyond its setting. It is about ambition, identity, and the cost of success. It is about the choices we make when faced with difficult circumstances, and how those choices define us. It is about the fine line between survival and corruption, and how easily that line can be crossed. In revisiting the world of Panem through this lens, the narrative adds depth to a story that audiences thought they already understood. It provides context, not just for the events that will follow, but for the mindset of one of its most complex characters. It shows that the origins of tyranny are not always rooted in cruelty alone, but in fear, insecurity, and the desire for control. And perhaps that is the most unsettling aspect of all, because it suggests that the path to becoming something monstrous is not always obvious. It can begin with something as simple as wanting to survive, to succeed, to be recognized. It can begin with small compromises, justified decisions, and the belief that the ends will outweigh the means. But over time, those choices accumulate, shaping a person into something they may not have originally intended to become. The story of Coriolanus Snow is not just a prequel, it is a warning. It is a reminder that power, once tasted, can change a person in ways that are difficult to reverse. It is a reflection on how systems of control are built, not just through force, but through influence, perception, and the ability to shape narratives. And as the final moments of the story settle in, there is a lingering realization that this is only the beginning. The world of Panem will continue to evolve, the Hunger Games will become more elaborate, and the name Snow will rise once again, but not as a symbol of honor, but as a symbol of authority and fear. The boy who once struggled to survive will become a man who ensures that others must do the same, all under the watchful eye of a system he helped perfect. In the end, the question that lingers is not whether Coriolanus becomes the person history remembers, but how much of his humanity is lost along the way, and whether, at any point, he truly had the chance to choose a different path, or if the world he lived in made that choice for him long before he even realized it.